in the United States. No.
I'll try my best.
Yeah. You always meet people. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Interesting story about today's guest. Her name is Michelle Sen, and she works at the TrueNorth Health Center, and she's going to be talking about lessons learned at the TrueNorth Health Center, my favorite place on earth, which is truly a place of miracles and healing. If it wasn't for Dr. Goldhammer, Dr. Lyle in that center, I'd probably still be 50 pounds overweight and stuck in the pleasure trap. Well, Michelle had contacted me a while back about being on the show because she has a great interest and specializes in helping people with anorexia. And most people that apply to be on Chef AJ Live, if they're vegan, get on. But I politely turned her, it was politely, I turned her down because I said, my audience isn't really that interested in that topic because most of them are interested in the opposite, how to lose weight. And we did have Sean Geisinger on the show twice, so I politely turned her down. Well, then she shows up at the Live Your Best Life conference a couple of weeks ago in Sacramento. It's a little Energizer bunny, and I met her, and she was so cute. And I said, I'm so sorry, I didn't have you on, but maybe you could come on for something else. Well, then right after the conference, she releases this YouTube that was everywhere about the takeaways to the conference. You can tell she's a real smarty pants. That's probably why Goldhammer hired her. And she did this most brilliant takeaway. I'm going to put the link to that, because if you weren't at the conference, we didn't stream it this time, about what she learned at the conference. And I said, you come on the show, talk about that. But then we decided, since she's seen so many miraculous healings at the TrueNorth Health Center, she's going to talk about her time there. So please welcome Michelle to the show. Sorry, that was a long introduction, but I wanted to tell people about how we met.
No, thank you so much, Chef AJ. It's great to meet you. And it's such a delight to speak to your audience today. And so for those who don't know me, my name is Michelle Sen. I'm a Stanford graduate currently working remotely for TrueNorth Health Center. And I just wrapped up 1 year working in person there as medical concierge. And first of all, I have to thank Chef AJ because I ask every single patient who comes to TrueNorth how they heard about it. And so many of them say they heard about it on the Chef AJ show, or they heard about it through Rich Roll, Dr. Alan Goldhammer's interview there. And as we know, you were the one who
I know, and by the way, I get not a penny from Dr. Goldhammer. But
you deserve a mansion.
But you know what? I did get a sweatshirt, just so you know. I did get a purple sweatshirt.
Awesome. So for those who don't know, TrueNorth Health Center has been run by Dr. Alan Goldhammer for almost 40 years. It offers many services and specializes in medically supervised water-only fasting. TrueNorth helps people recover from and manage conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, and autoimmune disorders. And it promotes eating a whole plant food, salt, oil, sugar-free diet. Now, as medical concierge, my main task was to be the patient and medical staff liaison, meaning that I help facilitate communication between the patients and the medical staff to get the patient needs met. I saw almost 1,000 patients come through, and I would have to say about 100% of them improved their health at TrueNorth. And I also dealt with things like checking patients in, giving them the tour, checking them out, appointment scheduling. So I saw a lot of things happen at TrueNorth, and truly it is like a utopia there. So many patients come and they say, well, I don't want to check out ever. And it's just a miraculous place to be. And it is such an honor to be able to share some of those stories here today.
Michelle, you're 24. How the heck did you get interested in this way of eating at such a young age?
So my story is that when I was a freshman in college, actually, my friend in his dorm room, I saw on his bookshelf the book How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. This was back in 2016, actually. And I saw that book and I thought, you know what? I'd like to not die. So I read the book. It was extremely compelling to me because it was all these facts and research. And, in my own family, there are people who suffer from chronic lifestyle conditions. And I myself was adamant that I wouldn't fall prey to them myself. And I'm just so privileged in that many of my friends are older than me. And so they've passed down these lessons to me. I'm like, Michelle, you should take care of your body now. Don't let yourself make the same mistakes we did. And at TrueNorth too, most of the patients are elderly. And I just feel so lucky in that, they tell me their stories and they want to be able to chase after their grandchildren. They want to be able to travel the world and not have knee replacements. And it truly is through the power of a healthy lifestyle in which they're able to accomplish all these things. I have to say also, I it probably helps that I have a very active imagination such that I can imagine myself, decades down the line. If I continue some old lifestyle habits, I probably will end up getting chronic conditions like the rest of my family. And I just don't want that to happen.
Had you heard about a vegetarian or a vegan diet before coming? And had you heard about the TrueNorth Health Center? Because how did you end up there just from reading a book?
So TrueNorth Health Center, Dr. Michael Greger, he was my introduction to this whole world. TrueNorth Health, I found out about maybe just like a year later, just from all the online, Dr. Alan Goldhammer, finding out why no oil. And I first came to TrueNorth as an outpatient in 2018. And then in 2021, about a year ago, I went there for an inpatient fast. This was before I even was an employee there. It was because I have this chronic eye condition called accommodative spasm. I still have it. It's caused about 8 years of chronic pain. And I heard the story of Christina Gore, who had a 16-year straight headache, went to TrueNorth, did a long fast, and resolved her headache. So for me, my fast could only be 7 days long. So, it's impossible for miracles to happen just from that. But I have to say, it was a transformative experience. And the very day I arrived at TrueNorth for my fast, the medical concierge position opened up.
Wow.
And
yeah.
So I just had to apply and give it a shot. And I have to say, working at TrueNorth has been the greatest pleasure of my life so far, truly.
Well, Dr. Daryl Woodruff is watching live and he says, you're never too young to eat healthy.
Absolutely. It's never too early to start.
Yeah, because you said you're 24, but you probably look half that. So what can I tell you?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What did you study at college? And again, where did you go to college?
So I went to Stanford University and I studied something called Science, Technology, and Society. I call it a design your own major. And I studied it because I'm someone who simply is attracted to far too many fields and subjects to really trying to specialize in one thing. And there's actually a video on YouTube which talks about how I took classes across 26 different departments because that's what I like to do. And TrueNorth is actually a great place too, because the community there, you meet people from all walks of life. And each and every one of them, they just teach me the most incredible things beyond health. I just love it. The stories there, and I'll get into that.
Have you ever thought about writing a book about what you saw? You could use the patient's names if they give you permission. And if they don't, you could just say your name's changed to protect the privacy.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. Writing is actually one of my greatest passions. On my website, michellesen.com, I have a bunch of writing there. One of those articles is actually called Curing the Blind, Lessons Learned from TrueNorth Health. And the link for it is in this video description. And in that, I was trying to write just some of the things I learned at TrueNorth. And that article isn't that long, but it could definitely fill a whole book. I just learned so many things there. So yeah, I should. You're right.
Well, I think I know the woman you're talking about, that case. I know her pretty well. Did you want to talk about that particular case? Because people, when they think of TrueNorth, they don't think of reversing blindness.
Yeah, I actually don't know that many in-depth details about that case, but that was the first story I wanted to cover because I hadn't really heard about it floating online before. But when I arrived at TrueNorth as a patient, the first thing I heard about was that there was a woman there who did a fast. She was blind. And when the fast was over, she had restored her eyesight. And that just blew my mind. And beyond that, I heard about people, reducing their glasses prescriptions, getting off their glasses. And this was the start of me realizing that this whole fasting, healthy lifestyle thing has the power to not just, manage conditions, but reverse them.
That's amazing.
And, yeah, it's incredible. And there's this other story. This patient had, this person came in for a fast. She had alopecia, which is hair loss. And so she had no hair in her head, no eyebrows, no eyelashes. So she came here, did the fast, she left. And then she came back a few months later. And the first thing she did when she saw me was she said, "Michelle, touch my head." And I said, "What?" And then I reached out and I touched her head. And I could feel this like peach fuzz of hair growing on it almost. And this patient, she was all teary-eyed, and she told me that this was the first time in years that her hair was starting to grow again. And in fact, she showed me how her eyebrows were coming back, her eyelashes were coming back. And she said that she had been to the top alopecia specialist in the country who had told her, like, I'm sorry, we just can't help you. And yet fasting, a long-term fast, suddenly brought her hair just spontaneously coming back. And that was just really moving to see. Patients also, when they're here, they're overcoming cancer. So one patient, she had lymphoma. She had flown here to TrueNorth against her doctor's advice. She had this giant tumor sticking out of her neck, like you could see it, and one on her stomach too. She did the long-term fast, and at the end of it, the tumor on her neck was absolutely gone, disappeared. The one on her stomach was gone as well. It was no longer palpable. And I and other patients were simply shocked because when does that ever happen? Like, when do you see that happen in the absence of, say, surgery? It's truly incredible. And this other patient who is actually writing his own book on his journey now, because he has been through the ringer in terms of the medical industry. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and top doctors had advised that he get surgery to remove the tumor, but this patient was determined to try a far more conservative method with far fewer side effects. So he came here against the doctor's advice, of course. He did a water fast. And at the end of the fast, his tumor had reduced in size, and his doctors are now recommending TrueNorth to patients. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's just, again, such a pleasure to just know these people. It's very different, like hearing these stories versus actually seeing these people in person, seeing how their lives have transformed, seeing the relief in their families' eyes when their families hear that they've gone better. It's truly very moving. And a lot of people also come to augment their chemotherapy treatment because Dr. Walter Longo, a researcher at USC, has done research proving that fasting is quite effective in helping improve chemotherapy treatment outcomes. So people come here too for that. And also, I'm one of the first people to see patients when they come into the facility. And there are patients who come in and they have just bags of medication, like too many for me to count. And by the end of the stay, they no longer are on any of those meds, not on the high blood pressure meds, not on the psychiatric meds. It's again mind-boggling, and they're also saving so much money by getting off that medication. And one popular misconception about TrueNorth is that you have to only come here to water fast. However, people can come here to juice fast. People come here just to eat the healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. And they get remarkable results off just doing that. For example, one patient came here and he was only eating, just not water fasting at all. And he got off benzos, which is a sedative medication. It's a depressant. It's very, very hard for people to get off that typically, but he was able to wean off those just by eating alone. And also something miraculous is that I see people come in wheelchairs, walkers, canes. They are not able to move themselves at all. Their limbs are completely swollen. And then when they come out, they're not just walking, they are running, and they can donate away their wheelchairs, their canes. It's, again, I wouldn't believe it unless I saw it with my own eyes. Like when they come in, I have to get them the food from the dining hall. I have to wheel them to their rooms. When they come out, they're coming out unassisted, and they're just so happy to have their lives and their autonomy back from that. Also, patients with COVID who are trying to recover from it, people with, say, long COVID symptoms, when they come here and they do a fast, some things happen, such as their chronic fatigue goes away, probably because fasting reboots the mitochondria. They're also getting their taste and smell back. So fasting truly can restore so many systems. And sometimes people are a little apprehensive about how the food is going to taste to them, like vegan, no salt. Like, is this actually?
Yeah. Did you change your diet to like vegan first and then SOS free, or did you just like immediately start working at TrueNorth and then change your diet?
So I had actually been on the whole food plant-based SOS free diet since I was 19. So this was like back in 2017. Because I read How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger, and he advocates for the whole SOS free thing. So I just went on it way back then. So I was on this diet way before going to TrueNorth.
Wait, what was your diet like before? And was it hard for you to just go from whatever you were eating to now like the Gold Hammer standard?
So I definitely was a total omnivore before, and my parents, if people see me in real life, they know I'm quite short. And my parents, trying to get me to, be big and strong, made me drink milk every meal and meat every meal. So very heavy on all of that. probably sadder than the typical standard American diet. But for me, I guess I'm lucky in that I never craved meat that much. Nor did I particularly like salt and oil. Like, I didn't like how it coated my tongue. And so I found it very easy to transition, especially after learning the health reasons to do so. However, I can completely sympathize with people who find it much more difficult to move onto that kind of diet. And I have to say that something like a stay at TrueNorth really helps with one person transitioning much faster than typical, because something like water fasting or juice fasting just totally resets the taste buds. And in fact, there was even one patient who came here who is a USDA meat inspector, like for a job as a living. She inspects meat, the marbling, the everything on it. And she came here, and when she first ate the food, she was like, Michelle, this is cardboard. I can't swallow it. It's just, ugh. She hated it. But, she stayed a few days, did a fast. And, by the end of it, she was rocking along, eating the food. The food we serve here is organic, farm fresh, just completely made gourmet by Chef Bravo, Chef Mauricio, and the incredible kitchen staff. It's just so high quality. And I have to say, every single patient I saw who came through loved the food. And you've seen yourself, Chef AJ, during refeeding, after one person is fasting, just like steamed zucchini is delectable. It is dessert heaven.
It's funny that you say zucchini, because it's too bad we never crossed paths, because I worked there I went there as a patient in 2011, Martin Luther King Jr. birthday weekend. And I wasn't eligible to do a water fast because at the time I was on a medication that wasn't allowed. Dr. Peter Sultana was my doctor, but I did a juice fast, which I found actually kind of anxiety provoking. My roommate, my friend Tim, did a water fast. And it's so funny. I remember on the day he finally got his first juice, he got out of bed and Ramses handed him, or no, is that maybe Mauricio, 2 juices. And he literally like fainted. Like that was like his first time out of bed. It was so fun. Not, it wasn't funny, but every time I'd been back there was to work during this thing called the holiday extravaganza that they had from 2011 to 2018. I was there anywhere from 10 days to 5 weeks. And you can be what they call an unrestricted feeder. People have to know that if they're afraid to water fast, or if they can't, and if they don't want to juice fast, you can get benefit just by eating the food.
Absolutely. And that is something which I wish were more known. There are sometimes people like will bring on their spouses. Their spouse doesn't want to fast, and they'll just eat the food. And then they'll be like, hey, this food is making me healthier. And it's great. There's one patient who came, and he had spent a lifetime just averse to watermelon. He wasn't allergic. He just hated the texture, hated the taste, didn't even want to bite into it. And after the fast, he had watermelon. And for the first time in his basically whole entire life, he actually enjoyed it. Like, he was stunned. He actually had a patient video record him eating the watermelon so he could send it to his family. His whole family was stunned. They didn't believe it. They're like, how? But fasting really has that effect on people. And I have also seen people who stay at TrueNorth, their scars, like decades-long old scars, heal, and their moles also fall off. And people, most of them, when they're leaving, because I also check the patients out, they tell me they want to come back. They're just trying to come back as soon as possible. And they want to bring their friends and family along too, so they can all get well.
It's funny that you mentioned zucchini, because zucchini to most people is not very exciting, And I remember when I was working there at Christmas, and on Christmas Day, Dr. Goldhammer gives the whole staff the day off.
Right.
So it's just basically me, him, and his son, Gar. And if somebody is coming off the fast after they have their juice, I know the first solid food they get is this steamed zucchini. And it was my last delivery. It was this lovely lady, and she had finished her fast. And so since it was my last delivery, she said, oh, would you sit down with me for a minute? I'm like, sure, I don't have any more deliveries. And we serve it there like on a white china plate with like one of those metal things over it with the hole, like they do at restaurants to keep it warm. And so she hadn't had any food. It was not a very long fast. I think it was like a 7 or 8 day fast. And it was like watching the movie When Harry Met Sally, the way she, just smelled it and savored it. And she was like, oh. And it was like, I thought she was eating a hot fudge sundae. And I came down after visiting with her, And I went and I made some zucchini, and Dr. Goldhammer says, we don't have any more orders. I said, I know, I just want to have some zucchini. Obviously, there's something really special about the zucchini here. And you're right. It's neuroadaptation at its finest.
Oh, absolutely. I've also worked on TrueNorth on like, New Year's, the holidays. So I've been in that kitchen delivering the food also. And yeah, it never gets old when you walk into the room carrying a platter of like salad, and the patient's eyes just light up and they're so like craving it. It's wonderful. And
what's your favorite foods there?
Oh my God. People ask me this and I say that's like choosing a favorite child. Like, how can I, with like the amazing bounty of food prepared, I do have some favorites. Like I really like sweet potato. I love kabocha squash. Yeah, those are maybe my top two. They also make a really good pumpkin curry soup there, but honestly, I'm a variety kind of girl. I'll take anything.
Yeah, their soups are really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at TrueNorth, one of the things that I didn't understand quite as clearly before was how much like information is suppressed, and that people don't, for some reason, don't want like the message of healthful living to get out here. Like, this is how people can actually get healthy. And one of the things I learned while I was there, just listening to story after story of people who had been, hurt by their allopathic doctors, is that it is against the incentives of the medical and food industry for sick people to actually get well. And there are people I know who are medical professionals who know that this lifestyle is saving their lives, like eating the healthy vegan food. But then they will openly speak against the diet and lifestyle and fasting for two primary reasons. First, if they told about this diet and lifestyle to their patients would no longer be their customers. And the medical industry makes money off performing surgeries, placing stents, prescribing a lifetime of medication. And then secondly, these medical professionals would then be labeled as quacks and then shunned by their community. So being at TrueNorth, I felt just, again, so privileged in just hearing what happens behind the curtain a lot of the times, and realizing that we can't just blindly place our trust in authorities, and we have to do our own research and sometimes do something as crazy as go to TrueNorth. And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if your time there, if you ever got to meet Henry Grossman.
Henry Grossman. Is that the photographer you're talking about?
Yes.
I did not. Actually, it was Dr. Goldhammer's wife, Dr. Jennifer Morano, who took my staff portrait, but would have been lovely to see him.
Yeah, they get some really well-known people there. He was the photographer of John F. Kennedy, the president, and the Beatles, and he recently passed away. He was such a dear man. I met some extraordinary people there. Here's a fun question from a live viewer. What's the craziest contraband ever found? Like, you ever go to a patient's room and find a Big Mac or something like that?
Oh my gosh, you're asking me to out people. Chef AJ now. Okay, let me think. That's such a fun question. Well, as you know, TrueNorth, the facility is right across from a market, Pacific Market. Wonderful place. Doesn't sell all vegan food. So I have seen people with some items from there. And there's a really funny time when a patient ordered for herself food which is non-compliant, and I think we somehow delivered it to the wrong door, and it was probably me because I'm the one who delivers packages to people's doors. And so the package came back to us at the office, and we wanted to open it up and see like, okay, what it is and who we should give it to. And so her attending physician at the time opened the package, and he pulled it out, and there was a naughty food in it, and he handed it to her in person. He's like, is this for you? So yeah, that happened.
I used to go to Pacific Market because being one of the chefs there at the time, I could get ingredients if I needed them. And I would see people buying like soda, coffee, chicken. And I'm thinking, you're paying money to come here. Why are you doing this?
I know that's the part. I'm like, I'm not one to, again, out people, but I just tell them like, at the end of the day, this is your stay. You make it, you get out of it what you can. And my recommendation would just be to like try to not do remote work while you're there. That way you can have like a clean mind and totally relax. Try to stay away from buying non-compliant stuff. But
it just shows how powerful the pleasure trap is. Have you read The Pleasure Trap?
I have read The Pleasure Trap. It's one of my favorite books.
I recommend the audio version.
Because you narrated it, yeah.
Yeah. So did you get to ever spend time having meals with Dr. Goldhammer? That's the funnest thing, is eating with him.
Oh, absolutely. I probably ate with him at least a couple of times a week. Talked a lot about things. Really, I think Dr. Goldhammer, people wonder if he's like the real deal. Like, oh, is this guy actually on this diet? Is he actually like, no, he is the real deal. Like, this guy is the most, the king of living a healthy lifestyle in terms of, he's got like, he sleeps perfectly. He exercises like 10 hours a week playing basketball. He actually is as big of a basketball nut as he claims he is. He is enormously productive and also extremely low neuroticism. Like, literally his iPhone alarm, I think it's like the warning sound, like it's just really jarring. And when it goes off, everyone's like jumping, and he, his heart never skips a beat.
He's very emotional. He's emotionally high conscientious, high emotional stability, low on novelty seeking, disagreeable, but it never comes out because of he really does have the perfect personality for being able to stay on this diet.
Yeah. And so do you, Chef AJ, like they said in the conference, both of you.
Yeah, the only thing I have different than him, because people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I mean, I've taken a lot of classes and I'm still in comedy class, but I'm high neuroticism. So I'm emotionally unstable. But other than that, I've always told him that I think we were just separated at birth, because Dr. Lyle has compared me to him, not favorably. But I think that is a compliment, that I'm a mini Goldhammer, because it means I can stick to the diet and enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
did you go to the classes? Because one of the funnest things, because we're not here to sell True North, because truthfully, good luck getting in. They're booked 6 months in advance, and you're lucky if you can even get in. But it is an extraordinary place to go, especially if everything else has failed for you. But one of the funnest things, in my opinion, is the classes. They have at least 2, sometimes 3 classes a day. I think it's like 10, 2, and sometimes like a yoga class or something at 6. But I love the classes, the cooking classes and the lectures. Those were my favorite part.
Yes, I did attend many of the classes, and that is actually one of my recommendations for people who do come to True North is please attend as many classes as you can. The education is unparalleled, and it's just such a fun, friendly environment. I saw Dr. Lyle there in person when he guest lectured. That was fabulous. And really, the patients who I see do the best, and even just sustain the lifestyle in general, are those who repeatedly go to get educated and just immerse themselves in the community and reach out to others and form bonds that often last after they leave True North. That is just so important, because it's so hard, unless you're Dr. Goldhammer, to sustain this alone and not be influenced by social forces. But we all need community in getting to a place where we can live the healthy way and not feel like we're being ostracized.
Yeah, it's such a great place. So are you still working there? Because didn't you say you were going to move?
Yeah, so I'm actually flying out to New Zealand in 1 week from today. I'm still in contact remotely. Dr. Goldhammer wants me to help with things like presentation design, TrueNorth Health Foundation research projects. So I'm no longer in the medical concierge role, which is like sad in a way, because all the patient contact is so wonderful. But yeah, I'm very lucky that I can continue to assist remotely as I can. And I was
gonna say, that's a big move to move out of the country like that.
Yeah, I've been a Northern California girl my whole life, and to be at the total Southern Hemisphere is going to be a change, but I very much welcome it. And I want to mention that True North helps people overcome more than just food addictions, because some people think, oh, I would only go there if I'm like obese or something. But actually, people go there to get off addictions for many things. They go to get off smoking, alcohol, caffeine, medications, and beyond that, even they're coming there to fast from things like work and technology. And actually, patients find it easier to do things like quit caffeine, quit coffee at the same time they're doing a fast, rather than trying to like do it at home. Somehow it's just easier for them to just abstain from all the substances at once in a controlled environment like at True North. And something I found really interesting too was that some people need to have a plant-based partner, like a spouse, and some people don't. But it is obviously easier on everyone when the partner is plant-based. And there's this one patient at True North who had been a longtime vegan herself, and her husband was an omnivore and he ran marathons and he thought he was supremely healthy, but then he was diagnosed with high cholesterol and also a bunch of other conditions and also got cancer. And the wife, we were all standing together in the dining room, and the wife told me that she gave her husband an ultimatum. She said that she wasn't going to stay married to someone who wouldn't also do the best he could to stay healthy for life, because she wanted a partner for life. And that was very powerful, like just hearing that and seeing both of them in front of me. And
Most women won't do that though. They're too agreeable, you know?
Yeah. And, you don't, most people don't necessarily need a partner who go all the way for them, but they at least need someone who's supportive. Like we both know Al Schmidt, who's the 87-year-old plant-based inspiration. He reversed his heart disease by going on this diet. And he actually said on your show, Chef AJ, that my life was more important than my marriage. You can get another wife easier than you can get another life. And of course, his wife Dottie is phenomenal. She's totally supportive, but I think the sentiment behind that is true, that we need, especially if your life is hinging upon adherence and compliance, you need people, especially your partner, to support you through this. And everyone varies again, but I have to say that.
Thank you for bringing up that quote from Al, because Al, actually, I moved here and like we're like besties now, me and Al. Actually, funny thing, I'm going to be seeing them this afternoon. They're taking me somewhere, but you can get another wife, you can't get another life. And people got really upset at Al because he was like just drawing the line with Dottie, and people said you're being mean to your wife, and but you understand he was trying to save his own life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when it comes to health, a lot of people, especially the hyper agreeable, they take care of themselves last. Like, especially at True North, I see a lot of people who are having caregivers, like they're taking care of their parents or ailing family members. And when they come to True North, this is when the person they're taking care of finally passes away. And these people are just shells of themselves. They're at the end of the rope. They're totally broken because during that time when they were taking care of their relatives, they never actually fulfilled their own needs. And something that has been reinforced to me over and over again is that we need to take care of ourselves first before we can take care of other people. And I often wish that people who do show up at True North's doorstep were able to come there like sooner, before they had that heart attack, before their health took that drastic turn, because they spent too many years ignoring themselves and their own failing health. So yeah, one of the messages I want to talk about today, one of those life-saving lessons, is indeed that you need to put yourself first, and doing so is not selfish. It is in fact entirely selfless act, because unless your cup is full, you can't fill other people's.
Absolutely. There's a question from Abdi. Is it possible to just go to True North to eat? Is the cafeteria open to the public?
So last that I heard, if you come in, you need to take a COVID test and pay a fee for meals. And you also need to be associated with somebody who is currently an inpatient at True North, but you can double check with True North about that. And I do know, like, as COVID restrictions lift, it will just become more and more of an open facility. And hopefully we can come back to the point again where people can just freely come in and get the healthy food. I have to say, for people who aren't in the area, you can still benefit from True North through partaking in things such as their online health coaching services. So for example, Kiki Atonito, she is their latest health coach. She's my friend, highly recommend her, but really can get a phone consultation with so many people and just get remote support that way.
Yeah, Kiki, I know, wants to be on the show. You're going to talk to her and see what she wants to talk about, but we'll get her booked. We are kind of booked far in advance, but we promise we'll get her on.
Definitely. And
oh, no, I was going to see if there was another question. Oh, yes. Clark wants to know, are you going to set up a True North in New Zealand?
True South. I thought about that. I do not know, opening and running a medical, especially a fasting facility, is so difficult, but there's such a great need for that throughout the world. I don't know if I have what it takes to open it all by myself, but people want to team up and do it with me. Let's join forces. So reach out to me and we can talk. I'd love to help out. I have friends who are trying to open their own fasting centers, and I just always tell them like, let me help you in any way I can, because this is the way that we can change the world. And True North is just in one place in California, which is not very accessible to so many people. And I really really want everyone to be able to have the medically supervised care if they wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get, I mean, not that you would even need to, but that, would be sick, but did you ever get to see any of the wonderful doctors there, like Dr. Sultana as a patient? Because boy, once you have Dr. Sultana, it's hard to like see any other doctor.
It is really hard. Yeah. And I have seen Sultana as a patient myself.
Isn't he the best? Like he's never going to come on the show. He's too busy and too humble, but literally, isn't he like literally like the best doctor? And I still see him. I make it up even when I'm not sick. And this is why these people say, well, my insurance doesn't pay for telemedicine. So what? I mean, it's smart. It's so important to your life to have as Dr. Goldhammer says, a doctor that's not a complete idiot. I see him every 3 months virtually, just because I want him on the team, because he is the smartest guy I know.
He is. He really is.
Yeah.
And another misconception about TrueNorth is that you have to be sick to go. But actually, Dr. Goldhammer says that healthy people may improve the most from fasting or just undertaking this diet. So I encourage you, even if you don't have some like crazy chronic conditions going on, it still is worth it to go and see just how much you can tune up your health.
And I think it's worth it to go for community because, first of all, like you have the whole world and then you got like this many people that are vegetarian and maybe this many people that are vegan and then like this many people that are like SOS free. And then you go there and you drink the Kool-Aid and you realize there's reasons for doing this that are compelling. And that you're not alone. And I think that's the best part to me, and you don't have to worry about like how much food you take, you're not weighing and measuring your food. You eat ad libitum on these huge plates and there's a 24-hour salad bar. And it's like, it's really fun. I miss it now. I'm 2 hours away. I hope you'll have me back at least, to teach a class or something. Here's a good question. Is there an age limit on how young a patient can be? I need extra guidance transitioning my entire family to whole food plant-based to make sure that children get correct nutrition for their growing needs. I think children are allowed to go, but not fast, if I remember correctly.
So actually, children are allowed to fast as long as they have their guardian's approval. And if they're under 16, then the guardian must be present there as well. So it can be done, just obviously, of course, everyone who goes to TrueNorth first get the screening with Goldhammer and talk to him about your needs. And there are people who can bring along their infants, their children as well, not to fast, but just, as companions. And your point about community, I think is so important because like you mentioned earlier in the conversation, TrueNorth just has people from all walks of life. And a lot of people are just so inspirational. There are authors, filmmakers, artists, Olympians. I actually, when I was at TrueNorth, met someone who was an Olympian over 90 years old who had come there. And she is just a bright, you call me an Energizer bunny, but she is the Energizer of Energizer bunnies. She was just like nonstop moving. She talked to me about how she does the rebounding daily and she walks daily and she's so active. And I think at TrueNorth, when you're there and you see other patients working so hard to maintain their vitality and longevity, even into their 90s, that just, at least for me, it tells me I have no excuse. Like it can be done. And
you're right that and not to like be a name dropper, but there are Oscar winners there. I've known of two and actually met one, so it's pretty cool to see the celebrities you see there. I mean, that's not just the reason to go, but you never know.
Yeah, it really is so cool. And I find that being at TrueNorth it's all like an equalizer between people, because when you're there, everyone is struggling with something. And so when we're in the dining hall and we're just sharing stories, we kind of forget like so-and-so is famous or so-and-so is this and that. No, we're just all humans. We're all humans trying to live as well as we can. And we're all dealing with something. And so when people talk, they get really real with each other. And that's something I love, just the authenticity of people at TrueNorth. When all pretenses just drop away, they're not in their business suits. They're just, no, we're patients and we're all trying to learn and heal. And I love seeing patients exchange contact information and they stay friends for life. And I've heard people get married after meeting at TrueNorth. Some really, really crazy stuff. But it's all so wonderful. And actually on the subject of the Olympian I just brought up, I have to mention that another behavior I see of patients who tend to stay the healthiest in the long term are those who have some sort of physical hobby in their lives. So I've met patients who do scuba diving, skydiving, some just like run and walk or do the rebounding. but whatever it is, it's so important to have that as a cornerstone of your life, because as we know, in this modern environment, it's so easy to just be sedentary. Technology just takes care of everything, but nothing can replace the need for movement.
You don't want to exercise while you're fasting, though. Let's make sure people know that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. That would cause things like loss of muscle, which is something we do not want. So yes, thank you for that great reminder. And I have to note that the patients I see, also the ones who tend to stay the most healthy, are the ones with a very positive, optimistic outlook. These are the people who you look at them, you wouldn't even think that they're dealing with that much, but then you look at their medical history and you're like, oh wow, this person has, well, they actually have a lot of serious things going on. But it cannot be understated the importance of a positive attitude and a sunny disposition and an open-mindedness to getting well from alternative methods. There just seems to be such a difference in their improvement throughout their stay, and just truly their positivity is infectious. So another thing I would tell people to think about when they're trying to strive for, optimum health is, how do you shape your life to attract the most positive energy possible, and how do you keep yourself away from negative forces and only stay involved in the positive, the optimistic? That is so important, especially if you're dealing with like a terminal diagnosis. It is so important to keep your head up.
Yep. What's your favorite type of lecture there? Like, do you like the ones that are more medically based, more psychology based, more fitness based? Did you like the cooking demos? Do you yourself cook? And I'm curious, since you're not there anymore, because when you work there, you get to eat all your meals there for free. So now that you're on your own, what are you eating?
So I was eating whole food, plant-based, SOS free for years before working at TrueNorth. And so now it's been a very fine transition, just cooking my own food again. I call myself the world's laziest cook. Luckily, things like the Instant Pot and the microwave exist. So there's actually a video on YouTube of me on how to cook potatoes. I literally just throw a potato in the microwave and just microwave it. But I like to eat, I love potatoes. I think I mentioned that. I like sweet potatoes especially. And I tend to just eat a variety of greens and vegetables. Right now I'm at my parents' house for a little bit, and I'm so lucky in that they're not 100% there, but they're very much eating plant-based. And so it's easy. We all cook together and we all eat together.
But how did they feel about you moving out of the country?
Oh, well, there's currently flooding in Auckland due to the weather. My dad was telling me, he said it's because of him, and he doesn't want me to fly out. But I told him, I could be back. I likely will be back at some point, especially because like Northern California especially has just such a high concentration of people in this community. And I'm not someone who likes to live my life, in real life as much as possible instead of on the screen. So yeah, but I'm excited for the adventure, and I'll keep everyone updated on it.
How many hours are you away from me, where you were at the conference?
Right now I'm in the South Bay area, so like a 2-hour south drive of you.
Oh, it's too, because if you want to come over, I'll make you a going away dinner.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, maybe I'll come to Santa Rosa one final time before I fly out in a week, but thank you. It's very, very kind of you.
It's so sad. I just met you. We could be friends, and now you're leaving.
Well, at least you have the online community. And on the subject of that, I wanted to first give a shout out to your online community. Chef AJ has in-person meetups, potlucks. I've heard they're incredible, and you should go for online support. And I also want to say that over a year ago, I helped create an online community. This is actually for Beat Your Genes fans. That's a podcast that Dr. Doug Lisle speaks on, and it's about evolutionary psychology. But a lot of people on there are also whole food plant-based eaters trying to stay on that lifestyle. And this community is actually on a platform called Discord, which is just, it's a messaging platform. But don't be scared of new technology, because we have people in their 60s who are using it just very comfortably. People pick it up very fast. And it's a completely free group to join. We've been active. We talk, message every single day, and we have video chats as well in the group. So, and if you want to join, it's private, because we try to make sure there no random internet creepers on there. So just if you want to join that community, just email me and I'll send you an invite link.
Well, Okay, the Discord, do you have, I mean, is it similar to Facebook or is it different the way you have to enroll?
Similar to Facebook in that of how messaging works. It's just a little different because you make your own account for it. And the reason I chose to make that group on that platform was because there are moderators really. So you can talk about certain topics without being completely shut down. So that's why people really like that community and are able to be very transparent on there. So again, just email me if you want the invite link. It's completely free. People talk daily and we post photos of food all the time. Lots of potato memes are on there. We all love
if you're comfortable, I can put it in the show notes if that's something you want. I'm happy to do that if you feel like that's something you want to do. If not,
well,
it's okay.
I would, accept it has to be a unique link for every person. So I'll just they can reach out to me.
Sense. Well, it's funny, you talked about our meetups, and we had a meetup last night at a vegan restaurant, organic vegan restaurant called Himalaya, where the chef was a Tibetan monk, and he did all SOS free. And actually, we had a guest that was on the show last week Dr. John Scharfenberg, who's almost 100, and it was so cool, like, because he lives up here, and I got to meet him.
Yeah, wow, that is so cool. I always joke to people that my last name is Sen, C-E-N, and I say I'm just trying to be a centenarian. Like that's all I'm trying to do. And so I have the long perspective in mind. I think people like that doctor who's 100 years old are just so inspirational. Like, well,
if you come, I'll have him come and you can meet him and interview him. Oh. He says one of his secrets is he doesn't eat dinner.
That is very smart. Does he do like 16-8 intermittent
fast?
Yeah,
he does. He says, I think it was breakfast was at either 6 or 6:30 and lunch at like 12:30. So I think he's doing a 16-8. I do that too, but I do lunch and dinner because I like dinner more than breakfast.
Yeah, most people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your boyfriend whole food plant-based?
Oh, wow. So I am the luckiest girl in the world. For those who know, my boyfriend is in New Zealand. That's why I'm moving there. When I met him, he was not, he knew of the benefits, but he was not all the way there, still eating meat, still eating dairy. And I have made it clear from the beginning that like, you don't have to be whole food plant-based to like be my partner or whatever. It's just, I like it. I like it as a preference because of all the health benefits of it. It's improvements on cognition, on everything. And again, I'm the luckiest person in the world because I never told him, I never forced him, yet he, of his own volition, after hearing me talk about it so much and seeing how much it means to me for someone to be like healthy, not just in the moment, but like for decades and decades and decades, he said, I'd do it. I'm doing like the whole food plant-based SOS free thing. And it is just so magical. Like I'm so lucky again.
How did you meet him if he lives in New Zealand?
Oh my gosh, it's such a long story. So we're actually both fans of the podcast Beat Your Genes, and Dr. Nate Gershfeld has a Facebook support group there. So I've known of him for years, like back years in that group. We would both post on and just both write stuff. But then we wouldn't talk that much personally. But then I made this Discord group for just people who want to get off Facebook and talk more closely. And that group I made a little over a year ago, and he was one of the people who joined the group. And so on the group, we just like talked more and had more video chats and stuff. And I'm not going to embarrass him, so maybe I won't get too much in depth about it, but he expressed interest. And I at the time I told him like, look, I'm here, you're there. Let's both concentrate on our in-person, prospects right now, because this is probably a little bit of a stretch. Like there can be no two farther points of the planet almost. But, at some point I was planning a trip to New Zealand anyway. And then we got to talking more, and that's how the whole thing went down. I met him in person. It was wonderful, phenomenal. And that's what I mean by this plant-based lifestyle can really change your life. Because through that is how I found the BE's podcast, and through that I found him. And life is great.
That is amazing, and that you're finding this information so young,
Oh, well, it really is thanks to people like you, Chef AJ. And that's part of the reason why I am so passionate about spreading the message, because for me, even though I found it so young and say at 19, I think about all of my own health issues I could have avoided if I simply was not raised having to drink like milk when I'm lactose intolerant, having to eat large amounts of this and that, all this junk. And I just wish everyone in the world could at least have the information, because it's the information which changes lives. And I think sticking to this lifestyle, it's not a willpower problem, it's an information problem. As in, if people knew the truth about what they were consuming and how it was adversely affecting them, they would change. For example, the patient who had prostate cancer, who I mentioned, he had been drinking skim milk for 3 decades religiously every day because he had been told this is good for you. And then he developed prostate cancer. And when listening to one video online from a plant-based doctor, he learned about how skim milk is very closely correlated with prostate cancer. And from that moment on, he just got out of his diet. And it's stuff like this where my boyfriend, even when I share this information about like, did you know that like this leads to hypertension, which leads to a high risk of stroke? He'll be like, oh, like, no, I did not know that, actually. I had no idea. And most people don't. But as I stated earlier in this interview, there are perverse incentives everywhere, and pharma, food industries, medical industry, they're not incentivized for people to actually stay healthy and stay well. So I'm trying to combat that by spreading information.
I just want to read some of the comments because I don't think you can see them. Sid says, your smile and your energy are contagious. Colleen says, what a cool way to meet. And Susanna says, you seem like a world changer. Now you can change New Zealand. That's a big dairy country, isn't it?
It is a big dairy country. It's a very meat heavy culture. I don't know. I'll try my best. I have tried finding, they do have a tiny little plant-based group there or something. I've reached out to them. I do want to get more involved and find the community there, and spread the word as much as I can.
Well, I wish you every success there. I'm going to miss you, even though I just met you, but maybe we can get together once before you go. What did he say about fluoride, though? That's important, what you learned, because here's the thing. It's not that I don't pay attention, but when I'm producing, I've got so much to do that I'm only half watching the presentations. I wish we had recorded them because I'm working with the tech and all this kind of stuff. But that fluoride comment was very important.
Yeah, it was. It stuck out to me because I've listened to almost the 300 episodes of Beat Your Dreams now. I'm a living wisdom library member of Dr. Lyle's. And for those watching, what Chef AJ is referencing is a comment that Dr. Lyle made of fluoride at the Live Your Best Life Conference, which I recapped in my YouTube video. So Dr. Lyle had said that fluoride is a neurotoxin, in that it actually decreases our IQ. And he had said that it actually causes a reduction IQ of like a significant amount, like going from the 50th to the 40th percentile in IQ because of ingestion of fluoride. And fluoride is something which the municipalities put into our water in an attempt to make it cleaner, because apparently it makes bones stronger. But if you look online and do some digging, there is some very compelling information on how fluoride may actually be detrimental to the bones. The information explains how fluoride, for example, is a byproduct of aluminum production and is used in stuff like rat poison, and that the chemical industry took fluoride, which initially was this useless byproduct, and said, what do we do with it? Well, let's sell it as something that makes bones stronger. Let's tell the American Dental Association to recommend fluoride to people, and let's put it in everything. So yeah, fluoride apparently might be quite a nasty substance, and I encourage people to look at the research on it. I think Nature published on it, on just the controversy surrounding fluoride. I myself have been using fluoride-free toothpaste for years already. And at TrueNorth, one of the things I did learn was just the importance of having purified water, whether it's reverse osmosis or distilled water, because beyond fluoride, water just has so many nasty things in it, as microorganisms like E. coli, as arsenic, bacteria, lead, nitrates, nitrites. There's so much stuff in your water. And I just highly recommend that everybody filter their water.
When I go to the dentist and get my teeth cleaned, they always want to sell me a fluoride treatment.
Yep, they do. I've for years told them to withhold the fluoride. They always ask me, do you want the fluoride? I'm like, no, please. No worries. And I think my bones are okay right now. So yeah. Nice.
Let's see if there's any more questions. Yeah. Oh, it used to be fluoride for stronger teeth. Yeah. I remember when you were little, you had to have it. I mean, but I'm a lot older than you. Like they'd always give it to you in when you were a pediatric dental patient,
Oh, for me too. Yeah, growing up, in fact, probably my upbringing was probably filled with even more medical intervention than yours. Probably likely much more. There's so much intervention going on. For example, when when I got my first period, the first thing my pediatrician told me was, "Do you want to get rid of it? Because we can put you on birth control."
Oh
And I
my,
had no complaints about it. I literally just told her, "Oh, I got
yeah.
my first period," and she said, "Well, it's optional to have one because you can just take this pill and you don't have to be on it." And even at the time when I heard about it, I was astounded because it's like a natural thing to have. And clearly some medication, which is disrupting this very natural part of a female's life, probably has some side effects. And the more and more I read papers and see how people are harmed, the more I realize that everything we concoct as a medication, as a silver bullet to get rid of something we find annoying or a hassle, turns out to have so many side effects. For example, birth control is linked with things like increased risk for Alzheimer's and dementia later, changes in female satisfaction with their partner. There's so many things. And I wish that everyone watching this broadcast just thinks carefully about what they choose to ingest, especially if it didn't come from nature, especially if it was manufactured in a laboratory by people who want profit.
Janet, who's watching live, says that she heard at the conference that she attended live that fluoride also disrupts the microbiome. And, Dr. Goldhammer was telling me they've lowered the age that kids can get gastric bypass now.
Yeah, it's really truly horrifying, the level of medical intervention being foisted upon children before they're even able to do their own research, make their own decisions, and how parents of course are very well-meaning and they want the very best for their kids, but again, perverse incentives everywhere. It seems like these days it is more important than ever for us to stay vigilant against anything that is being recommended to us, and just think carefully about the long-term consequences of whatever we choose to ingest or whatever surgeries we choose to have undergo.
What do you do for exercise, and do you do it daily?
Yes. So exercise is one of the things, like you, Chef AJ, I find it to be very, I do actually, I feel more for mental than physical benefit, because as my TrueNorth doctor has told me, I have what's called a brain on fire. I can't stop thinking. And exercise is one of the few things that quiets it down. Yeah. So I have this pull-up bar in my room. I probably do about 50 to 100 pull-ups a day, not in a row, but just throughout the day, because it helps me work off some anxiety. And every morning I like to go outside, get that sunlight exposure, which is so important for setting the circadian rhythm. I like to go running. I do a lot of calisthenics. That's something that's very fun to me, and you can just do it in your own home, just on a yoga mat, and practice kind of not real gymnastics, but I like to try some things. So yeah. Oh, and dance cardio. I love dance cardio. I'll go on YouTube. I'll follow videos for ages dancing to the latest pop songs. It is so fun for me.
That's great. How's your sleep?
My sleep is not as good as I want it to be, because it takes me too long to fall asleep because my brain won't stop going. So typically I fall asleep listening to something educational, like a podcast or an audiobook. And I think my sleep could probably be improved by doing more things to quiet the mind and downregulate, which tends to be my problem. But I found something helpful for that is meditation, which my boyfriend got me on. So shout out to him for doing that. And what's also helped is definitely the exercise. And in fact, Naval Ravikant, who is this Silicon Valley tech investor and kind of philosopher, he says that we have in modern society overstimulated minds and understimulated bodies. And I cannot agree enough with that. I think we need to spend less time on the screens, more time moving our bodies. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to stay awake when you're exhausted from being outdoors all day.
It's funny you said that, because yesterday I interviewed Dr. Wes Youngberg, who's a plant-based doctor who specializes in treating Alzheimer's and diabetes. And one of the things he said, this interview will be available for the upcoming summit. He said, if you can't fall asleep, it tells me you didn't exercise enough that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you were little, Michelle, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an artist. I on my website, there's which is michellesen.com. one of the links on there says art, and you can click on it, and that goes to my art website. So growing up, like doing visual art was always my jam. And unfortunately, due to these eye conditions I've developed in the past 8 years, which make it very difficult to do a lot of things I used to, I can't really make art anymore, not in that way. But that's always been near and dear to my heart. And I think growing up, I also want to be an author, a writer, because I'm a voracious reader. And it has always just delighted me, both fiction and nonfiction, to just walk through those realms and lose myself in information. So no, an artist and writer, that's always been my default response to people.
You think you'll write a book?
I want to. What gets to me is I want to deliver something to people which only I uniquely can, and which is uniquely helpful. Obviously, I'm not that old, so I don't want to write a book that tells people how to live life, because I'm 24. I can't tell you that. But I do want to take whatever I can that is most useful that I've experienced and just share it with the world, such as what I'm doing right now, sharing my unique perspective as someone who is an employee of TrueNorth. And that's really what I do, just in all my things, like my YouTube videos, my website. I don't know what's actually most helpful for people. I just put out there what I think might help. But if people ever want to tell me what they find most useful, please do, because I just want to be of service in any way I can.
Colleen wants to know if your whole family's as energetic as you.
Yes, audience, Chef AJ, your audience. I swear, how much did you pay them to say those nice things?
I just have nice people watching. So we call them our community.
Well, Colleen, that's a very, very kind comment. I think I have an older brother. He's actually very sedate. He's very, very calm, super mature, and does not, he's like my foil, my counterpart. I actually really appreciate his calmness against my hyperness. My parents, they're both fairly introverted. They're not quite as zesty as me, but
I loved your exuberance, because the thing that strikes me most about you from the minute I met you is you seem to be genuinely happy and engaged in life. You're not like looking at your phone like most people your age. I have like 15 nieces and nephews, and they don't even make eye contact.
Oh, thank you. And I have to say that the happiness is not something which comes naturally to me. I think even at TrueNorth, a lot of people, because when I wrote that story about the article Curing the Blind, Lessons Learned from Working at TrueNorth Health and put on my website, a lot of patients apparently said like, wow, we had no idea that you live in 24/7 pain and you have all this going on and all. And I, for myself, I feel like there are so many reasons in life that we can be downtrodden, and everyone has their traumas and the reasons to be depressed and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like happiness is a choice. Like I can either choose to hole up in a room and be like, life sucks. Like all these doctors I go to, they can't help. And even fasting didn't cure me and blah, blah, blah. Or I can decide to be a positive influence on people's lives and try to share good messages and just try to make people smile. I think I'm just also so lucky in that there are people like you, like Colleen, like so many wonderful, wonderful people in the world who are just filling the world with joy, and I simply take their energy and just try to reflect it back to them. Right. So thank you, Colleen, thank you, Chef.
I mean, this is the highest compliment, because I love dogs more than anything. If you were a dog, you'd be a yellow lab.
Thank you.
Because
someone's told me that before. Do you know Gentle World? It's this vegan education organization
in Hawaii. Dr. Clapper used to be there. Sure.
Yes, Dr. Clapper used to be there. So I stayed there for a few months, because this is how crazy I am to the lifestyle. I stayed there. I learned how to do veganic farming. I lived in a cabin. I was totally immersed in that whole thing. And that's what they said to me. They told me like, you're like a little, you're like a little puppy dog. And I'm like,
no, but I think that's a compliment. Yeah. Hey, I got a question from a live viewer named Sylvia. What advice would you give me, a 65-year-old, to make as the first change in life for the best?
I think that is highly dependent on, she elaborate what her current situation is, because for everybody, of course, it's very individualized what you're currently working through. And also disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice.
but what I tell people in general is first thing, just get rid of dairy. You don't have to be a doctor,
Oh, okay. I see.
So I don't know exactly what she's asking, but in general, when people say, well, what should I do first? Sugar, oil, salt, well, first thing I would do is obviously I didn't have to know the person. If you smoke, stop smoking. Like that would be the first thing. But then usually I just say dairy because that just seems to be a good foot in the door.
Yeah. Dairy is actually huge. As we know, Dr. Lyle speaks adamantly against dairy because of its great link to causing autoimmune disorders later in people. So he doesn't even think that children should be having dairy. A lot of people are naturally lactose intolerant too. And they find that when they cease eating dairy, they start being able to breathe again and digest much better. So dairy is also one of the first things I tell people. And for me, if someone is trying to get to a more plant-based lifestyle, I try my best to lead with flavor. And I mean that in back at Stanford, I worked as a research intern in their dining hall. And one of the things we worked on was helping get people to eat more plant-based food. And what the research has found is that people are attracted to things like attractive food labels. Like instead of calling this plate just like spiralized carrots, call it like zesty tango citrus flavored glazed carrots, and people will be much more interested in eating those things. So I try to tell people that when you go vegan or when you eat more plant-based, you're not losing out on choices. You're actually expanding your palate and able to enjoy a wider variety of things. And I try to cook them cool food, show them cool recipes. And nowadays it's easier than ever. Like there's jackfruit, all these things which are becoming more available and allow people to realize that becoming vegan means they can actually enjoy a greater variety of foods than ever.
What's your favorite food? Mine's sweet potato. Duh. If anybody didn't know.
I don't want to be cliche and say sweet potato also, but that is very, very high on the list. I've also loved tofu. I just grew up eating tofu. My grandparents would talk about how I demand to eat tofu even for breakfast. So as a very soft spot in my heart, that silken tofu.
Have you had the ones I love the most, the Hannah or the white sweet potato?
Yes. And the problem between me and the Hannahs is that they're pleasure trap food for me. I cannot.
That's so interesting because to me they're just lunch, but I could see that. Yeah, I find that the Japanese are more of a pleasure trap or Hawaiian because they're much sweeter and more cake-like. But that I eat them with broccoli, so maybe have you ever tried balancing it with like a vegetable at the same time?
Always. I
Awesome.
yeah, I don't know. They're so good. Like they were at your conference, the sweet potatoes.
Yeah, well, but you only got 3 slices, so you couldn't have overdone it.
Right. But oh boy, that was a real treat. You outdid yourself at that.
Wasn't the lunch amazing, Chef
Angie?
If you guys ever come to Northern California, you must check out Zest Kitchen, organic. Chef Angelique, she is amazing. Hey, I'm curious, did you get to shop at local spicery or California balsamic? Were you there, or are you like Goldhammer? No seasoning whatsoever.
Oh no, I mean Goldhammer actually is into using seasoning. For example, when he did his cooking demo on your show, he used the Well Your World marinara sauce for the pasta. So
right, that's
he's
true.
not completely against seasoning.
He's against balsamic vinegar, and he wouldn't even try any. His wife Jennifer tried the salacious from local spicery and liked it, but not him. No pleasure for him.
No pleasure for him. I have been to the local spicery. This is a spice shop which is in downtown Santa Rosa quite a few times with coworkers and recommended patients go there. I love spices. I will add cayenne pepper to everything. I'm a bit of a spice addict. Yeah.
Wow. Gina says you're very charismatic. Well, I wish you every success in life and in your travels, but if you ever want to come back to the United States, we would welcome you.
Thank you. And just as a parting message to viewers, I just wanted to say that if you ever want to check out more about me, resources that I've shared, feel free to subscribe to my newsletter on my website, which is michellesen.com. That's michellcen.com, or subscribe to me on YouTube with my name. That's my same name there. And there's actually quite a lot of information that I couldn't cover in this short talk here about TrueNorth, about life in general. So I maybe in the future I'll have to come back on and share more. We'll definitely continue to chat, Chef AJ. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you for making my day today.
Oh, thank you. This was really delightful. It was really so much fun. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow. We've got 2 shows. At 11 a.m., we have Kathy Hester's Vegan Kitchen. She's going to be making Maryland crab cakes, oil-free, of course. And I don't think she uses sugar and salt, but not 100% sure. And a strawberry shake made out of oats. It's so clever. And at 1 o'clock, I don't think this guy has been on anybody's show, but I have Dr. Robert Vogel. If you are familiar with the work of Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. or read the book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, you know he talks about him all the time. He is the gentleman that performed the research for the brachial artery tourniquet test, and he was in the movie Game Changers. You'll see him here